Greetings, friends! Each year I try to make it a habit of going out and visiting different farms and homesteads. And we haven't been able to travel quite as much this year, but we have seen some amazing places, like the homestead of Doug and Stacy from Off Grid with Doug and Stacy. It was absolutely amazing. As well as, not too long ago, we had a chance to visit a couple that is raising ostriches on their homestead. And it was like, whoa, it's like being with dinosaurs. But also, we had the chance to visit Polyface Farm and spend some time with Joel. And we had an absolutely amazing visit there. It's so neat to see all the different things that he is doing there with his team of stewards, of young men and young ladies helping out, learning how to farm. Some of them with some background of homesteading and farming, and some with absolutely none, but with all a common interest of learning more about farming. And I must say, I was blown away by my experience at Polyface. It's so neat to see the different things that they do. And I really admire that how for years they have had an open door policy where they allow anyone to come visit their farm and see the different things that they are doing and to learn. And I really admire Joel and how he freely gives of his knowledge to anyone. He's just willing to share. And in today's video, he shared with me his cattle grazing operation.
So we move the cows every day, and right now we've had so much rain. Right now we're moving them twice a day just to keep them from getting muddied up. This is the first really bright sunny day we've had in a while, so things have really dried out a lot today. It's a whole lot better. But you know, when you look at herbivores in nature, they're moving, they're mobbing, and they're mowing. The reason for the herbivore is to prune the forage to return it to its first stimulate, you know, its fast growth cycle. So, you know, if you let's see, if we look, let me just get, there you go. So if you look at this orchard grass right here, so they've only been off of here for 12 hours, and you can see right there's where it was grazed, and right there's the growth. It's almost probably half an inch in 12 hours.
Wow. So
if you leave them on here for a couple of days, guess what they're going to eat? They're going to go back and nip that again, and that's going to weaken the plant. So by moving them every day to a new spot and letting this rest, it goes through its sigmoid curve of juvenile growth through the rest period. It has time to well, mechanically, it has time to get into fourth gear. If you keep it down in grazed tight, then it can never, you know, get enough leaf area to really kick into high gear. And if you let it go into senescence, then it quits because it gets over mature. So the herbivore is a pruner to freshen up the forage and restart the rapid photosynthesis cycle. So moving, mobbing, mowing, that's what they do in nature, and that's what we do here. So by tightening them up, you know, they're in a group, and so let's move them. So I moved them in here this morning. So this morning, this paddock right here looked just like this one. Okay, and so now we're gonna move them. So I'll unhook my very sophisticated hanger there, and this is of course just a Lowe's electric cord reel. You know, they're $5.99, cheap, and I just pull that off, let that go. Come on, gal. Come on. Suck. Come on, gal. Come on, gal. Suck. Come on. Come on, gal. Woo! Come on, gal.
Guys, I wish you could feel it. How neat it is being out here with the colors that are here, the grass, the blue sky, and then the cows just right here grazing, right on this new pasture that Joel just moved them to. It just has such a good feel. I know you can taste it a little bit and feel it just a little bit watching it, but it's so neat to be here in person just to watch that. It's one of my dreams to be able to have some kind of pasture like this and be able to see animals just grazing. It's just so beautiful.
Pretty, isn't it?
It is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So how hard was it to train them to come over to the new pasture?
Well, if you got called for a bowl of ice cream every day at 4 o'clock, you'd probably, about 3:45, your tail would twitch and your ears would flicker too, I expect. So, you know, they respond pretty good to a routine and a fresh salad bar. So yeah, I mean, you could tell nobody had to e-haul them. There was no rodeo.
No.
And they were perfectly happy to come.
I think I saw a couple little ones in there too.
Yeah, an elderly farmer here quit a couple back in the spring, early, and he had 12 cows, and we were so short of ground beef and hot dogs, and so we took his cows, and you know, we'll keep them 6 months and let them fatten up. Well, several of them were bred, so we said, well, we might as well take the calf and let them calve. So that's what we did, and so they've all calved. So what we're going to do is next week, a guy that likes to raise bottle-fed calves will come and get these calves. We'll fatten up these cows, and we'll put them in the mix.
There we go. Now, Joel, this way of raising cattle is way different than a lot of people. What made you get into this style of grazing your cattle?
Well, we've been doing this for almost as long as I can remember. So back when we first came, Dad got a hold of some Andre Voisin stuff. He's the Frenchman who developed the principle of controlled managed grazing. He called it rational grazing, because you're rationing it out every day. And so he developed that, and Dad got a hold of some of his work, and it made so much sense. So we started back in the 60s, but we didn't have good electric fence back then, and we didn't have, you know, a grid of fence posts. We didn't have a water lines in, but we did the best we could, you know, and we'd move them, once a week or so. And horsefly.
Yeah.
There he is. You can get him. You can get him right there. Here.
I didn't hit him hard enough.
Didn't get him hard enough. All right. So anyway, we we moved them about every week or so, and just along best we could do. But then when I was in college, one summer home, I finally by hand I put in about 200 fence posts and made the basic permanent field outlines with electric fence, field grid. Well, that meant we didn't have to move all 4 fences every day.
Yeah.
You know, if all you've got to do is put the 2 rungs on the ladder and the stringers are there, that's not that big a deal. But if you've got to put up all 4 fences every time, it really, you know, it's a lot more difficult. So, so anyway, once we got that permanent grid in, then it made moving them a lot easier. And then we gradually went to, every 3rd day, 2nd day, and then when we went to every day, that changed the game. That was just, you just can't imagine what it did from a production and a fertility standpoint. So in Augusta County, our average cow days per acre, so a cow day is what one cow will eat in a day. In Augusta County, our average cow days is 80. In other words, an acre will support 1 cow for 80 days a year, or 80 cows for 1 day a year. I mean, just so you can imagine it. And we average 400.
Wow.
And we haven't bought a seed or a bag of fertilizer in
Wow.
60 years.
Wow.
And this was a rock pile when we started.
Wow.
So I'm not, that's not bragging. That's simply paying homage humbly to an amazing system that works. And so it's up to, you know, it's up to us to let it work, you know, make it work. So now we're gonna go get the water trough and the salt box.
Okay.
We'll move that into position, and then we'll be done.
One of the things I noticed from paddock that you just moved them from versus looking at other areas where traditional farmers or whatever raise their cattle is they kind of pick and choose in their spots of grass. But it looks like where you had this mob here, they pretty much, a majority of the vegetation has been eaten. Yeah,
you couldn't mow it. You could hardly mow it better than what they've done here. And that's part of the mobbing, is when you mob them like that, they eat a lot less discriminately. I mean, look at this. Here's a cockle burr that would normally be in it, you know, it'd never eat. But look, they've eaten that clear down to that.
Wow.
Clear down to that that top there. So yeah, they will eat stuff that you wouldn't believe that they would eat. All right, so let's jump in here and grab a salt box and we mark the water spots with an ear tag like this, so we can see it from a distance. We'll spin around, and you're going to put your end in first. That's it. Yeah. No spark.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's hard to believe that up there looked like this morning.
Wow. And how many head of cattle would you say are in here?
Oh, there's not quite 100 in here.
Okay.
So we run everything by cow equivalent.
Okay.
So there are roughly 75 cow equivalents in here. About
Okay.
90 head, but there's some of them are calves. Put this right in here.
Okay.
So now we're good.
Okay. I don't see your tag on this one.
What?
Well, I don't see your tag on this one for your water.
Yeah, we might not have one on this because it's right up here by the gate. That's real pressure. Do you feel that?
Oh, wow, yeah.
I mean, that is rolling in there. Rolling in there heavy. Probably, so we're watering 100 head out of this little, so I'm splitting it. They're gonna be in here tomorrow.
Okay.
So they'll drink out of this end today, and then they'll drink out of the other side tomorrow.
Okay.
And when they're mobbed up like this, they don't all come to water at once. They come one at a time because they're not so far away. So you can get by with a much smaller tank as long as you have enough flow. So that water's coming in there at 15 gallons a minute. So, you know, it'll keep up with, you know, a couple of them drinking at a time. Yeah, that's a pretty sight, isn't it?
It sure is. Amazing. I just love the colors. It's just like color everywhere.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to move away from black because black gets so hot.
Oh yeah.
We do have the shade mobile. It's over there. Well, it's right up there. I'll bring it in the morning.
Okay.
Because I got to move the egg mobile in the morning. But as we stand right here, you know, it's interesting, as you stand right here, you can easily see, you know, we just grazed those 2 paddocks. We see the mosaic. So those paddocks over there beyond that fence are like 6 days ago.
Okay.
5 days ago, 4 days ago, 3 days ago, 2 days ago, 1 day ago, and so you can see the recovery. You know, you can see the recovery mosaic.
So about how long after you move the cows are you bringing the chickens right behind?
Try to bring them about 3 to 4 days.
Okay.
The fly cycle is 4 days, so we like to get them in about 3 days behind the cows.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. They're slick, aren't they?
They are. I feel like I could just pull up a chair and just watch them.
Oh yeah, yeah. One of my favorite things is to come out on an evening like this, when the sun starts to set, and just lie down, and just, you know, they're all full, and they just come up and start to lick you, and just all that thousands and thousands of pounds of animal, you know, but they're just gentle. They sniff, you know, sniff you, and you feel their whiskers, you know, on your arms and your face, and you know, they don't step on you. They just come up real close, you know, and they sniff and sniff.
That's great.
As opposed to a pig who would eat you.
That sounds like the kind of connection we're supposed to have, just with the earth and then the animals around us.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's right. And the sound. Hear the sound?
Yeah.
All that pruning going on.
It's like music.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like you need to make that an album or something. Just have music or sounds of just the animals eating. Sounds of life.
Sounds of pruning. You know, I've started trying not to say grazing, because grazing is now not politically correct. You know, grazing, everybody thinks overgrazing, right? So by saying pruning, that's a nice, you know, that's a positive thing. Pruning, that's good, you know, and it helps to describe what they're doing. Yes, they are grazing, but more importantly, they're actually pruning the plant so that they, you know, regrow fast.
And doing it that way is a mutually beneficial relationship for the cow as well as for the vegetation.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Whereas if they were just in this field all the time, it would be the palatable, the plants they like, they would graze and keep right down on the ground, and the ones they don't like would get long, and then you get this real, then you gradually move from palatable to unpalatable species.
And it would basically turn the environment unhealthy as well.
That's right. That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's nice to see all the varieties of grasses that are growing in here. Sorrel, clover, maybe some dandelions in there.
Dandelion, there's
plantain.
Plantain. There's a lot of plantain. Barnyard grass, chicory. Yeah.
Whole bunch of nutrients for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of diversity. There's few opportunities in this world to make this number of beings this happy every day.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. And moving this amount of heads of cattle really didn't take you that long overall.
No. No, those normally they would all come. I wouldn't have to go get anybody, but those brand new those cows that have not been on our program for a long time. All right, I'll give them.
This what you need right here? You measure that out to a certain amount, or?
Yeah, it's 1/3 salt, 1/3 fur trail NutriBalancer,
okay,
and 1/3 kelp from it's the Icelandic,
okay,
Thorvin Icelandic kelp. So we mix it 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Right now, I'm giving just a little extra kelp, because with the grass being so green and washy, I'm concerned about, you know, pink eye and just not having enough. So up their kelp just a little bit.
Okay. And kind of help with their immune system at the same time.
Right.
So, how important is that? And I guess what is the benefits to the mix as a whole?
Yeah. Well, you know, in nature, wild herbivores, they migrate. They go to where there are mineral licks, and in fact, the Native Americans, one of the reasons they lit fires all the time to burn the forest was to make charcoal, which brought wildlife. The bison, the deer, they'd come and lick that charcoal for mineral, and ash to get mineral. Well, when we go to private property and we put the fence around these guys can't go and find mineral licks and charcoal and all those kinds of things. So we have to bring it to them.
Makes sense.
And you know, when they need it, they eat it. Sometimes they'll go a week and not touch it, and then they go a week and they bankrupt you. But we figure that cow, she knows everything she needs to know to be a successful cow, and she's not watching TV. So you know, she's not influenced by others. and so she, you know, so we let her make the decision.
There we go.
So we keep it out there. Sometimes they don't touch it, and other times they eat it like crazy. And I've got my theories as to, you know, what makes them eat it more or less or whatever. But the main thing is the cow makes the choice.
There we go. So they don't need any infomercials telling them they need to have this or
no. Shoot, if they were watching TV, they'd be down here asking to have a shot.
And just like the pigs, you just have one strand of wire for the cattle as well.
Yep, that's right.
And you just raise it up a little bit higher than the pigs, it looks like.
Well, you know, cows, because they have a much that's not higher. There's a lot wider from a lot wider range as to where you can put it. You know, like you could move this wire, goodness, you know, 8 inches and it would still be fine. Pig, you move that wire about 2 or 3 inches and you're starting to move out of a zone of efficacy.
Okay.
I'll just grab it to show you. So right there is where it was nipped. You see it? That sheath?
Yes.
So it's grown that much in 7 days.
Wow.
So you see, if they were in here, they would nip this off again, and that would weaken that very palatable plant. And over time, then these would leave, and the weeds would take over. So that's why the daily move allows you to get so much more forage. So, you know, people talk about world's overpopulated or whatever. Well, just imagine if all the neighbors, instead of getting 80 cow days, were like us and we're getting 400, and then their neighbors got 400, and the whole state got 400. I mean, you can't even imagine what kind of production there could be.
Yeah. And you said how long ago was this that they were here?
A week.
A week.
Yeah.
Wow. Can't even tell, really.
Yeah. Yeah, so the point is, you give this another 2 weeks, it's going to be back up to your knees.
It's pretty neat to see the growth pattern of grass. Next, Joel took me to another paddock where the grass was even taller, even over his head.
Just for perspective, I'll go out and stand in it. I mean, it's just to make a believer out of you, man.
Wow.
Look
grass
at that.
Taller than you.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. That's pretty neat.
And they'll eat I mean, it's so succulent, they'll eat every single bit of it.
Wow.
They'll just eat it right down to nothing.
That is neat.
It's just really succulent.
It all looks really, really healthy. It smells good too. You can smell it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Joel is so passionate about what he does that he makes even learning about grass interesting. Well, earlier I talked about the stewards that they have on the farm. After we got done seeing the grazing system and his grass, next Joel took me up to the housing area where the stewards live on the farm. Oh, that's neat.
This is the compound. So this is the girls' cottage over here. That has 4 beds. And then this is 3 units here, 2 apartments on the edge and then a central one. The central one's for the guy stewards, and then the 2 on the edge are for apprentices and couples.
Okay.
So there's 4 separate quarters.
That is neat. Wow.
So and of course we milled the lumber, and you know, and built it.
So you constructed both of these. That is great.
Yep. I'll tell you, that sawmill, you just can't. You just can hardly imagine how valuable that thing is.
I'm sure it saved you a ton of money.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, you don't have to do much of a building project to realize the cost of lumber.
Yeah.
I mean, just a small project.
Exactly right.
It's very expensive. But if you can mill your own lumber, then suddenly projects that would be daunting, whether it's a brooder house, an eggmobile, or an agritourism cottage,
yeah.
You know, a glamping platform, all of that stuff, a house, all of that becomes, you know, possible if you can get your own lumber for almost nothing.
Yeah. For years I have been wanting to meet Joel, and I'm so thankful that he took the time to spend with me and show me around his farm. But you know what? You too can learn to farm like Joel. Joel is releasing an over 500-page, fully colored book, an instruction book on how you can build systems like Joel, like the Eggmobile, the Feather Net, and more. Just check out the show notes below. But before you do and before you go, check out this interview that I did with one of the stewards there, Lauren. Alrighty, I'm here with Lauren, and actually earlier today we were doing some woodwork with Joel, and we were putting some of the limbs into the shredder, right?
Oh yeah.
That's pretty neat. And you're an intern here, but you have come here all the way from California.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty impressive to come out that far to learn from Joel and them. So what has it been like for you being an intern here, learning from these guys?
Oh, I think the biggest thing that I've noticed in difference from my old jobs was the type of mentorship that they have here, because they focus so much investment on everyone here. You know, everyone always thinks that like, oh, you're coming here to work and you're working for almost for free. What are you like? What is wrong with you? And I don't know. I don't think people understand the educational aspect to it. I mean, especially for someone like us that we're transitioning out of one career into another, or starting a career, just in starting our own businesses out of the blue. You know, coming to learn from the person who has paved the way. That's why I came here, because for me, I like to learn from the best.
Exactly
when I learn
right.
from somebody, you know, exactly. And yeah, that's what yeah, he brought me there.
That is awesome. So as you've been here a couple months now, do you feel like you are gaining the knowledge and experience that you thought coming into it? Are you gaining more or less?
Oh, that's okay. In some aspects, yes, and in some aspects, I'm learning things that I thought I was going to be into that I ended up not being that into.
Interesting.
Like, I came in here knowing that, you know, when I start my own operation, I'll probably, just from pure practical purposes, broilers and layers.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually, coming here, I've learned so much about broilers, and I feel so confident in them, and I've really enjoyed them, that I feel a lot more capable. Like, I feel more capable of being able to start something, whereas I came in here thinking that I was going to be really into rabbits, and I found out that I didn't quite take to it as quickly.
Interesting.
And it's one of those things where it's like, well, if I learn it on my own, then cool, but if not, you know, you just find those differences. Yeah.
That's neat. So how has it been learning from Joel and Daniel specifically on a day-to-day basis, having access to these guys?
Yeah, I mean, Joel he's still so elusive, so you walk around and you're like, you kind of still get a little like,
like starstruck.
Oh my God, a little bit fangirl.
Yeah.
But I mean, especially with Daniel, working with Daniel, he's such a team player, and he takes the time. That's what I love about them, is that they take the time. They show you how to do things. They show you what they've learned, and they've showed you the mistakes that they've made. and kind of get you quickly through this learning process. And they're incredibly patient because, I mean, you know, they're getting 11 people who don't know what they're doing for the most part, unless they're Isaiah. And you know, we're messing things up all the time, and we're constantly asking questions. So the level of patience that someone who's teaching has to have. I love working with them.
That's great.
They're so much better than my old bosses.
So how do you envision, after you leave here, how do you envision implementing the things that you've learned? Will it be as a business or just homestead? What are your goals and aspirations?
I do plan on having my own operation. I focus a lot on the community aspect because I hope to someday grow, you know, a community where I have 25 some odd people living there, and kind of eating together and working together and living together. And I really like that they built that, and that's something that I'm kind of paying attention to. And in terms of, you know, I noticed that there's a lot more possibilities than I expected there were. Especially, you know, the resources that they've given us through Owl Nation, this book that they gave us about custom grazing, and the ideas of, you know, not being so fixed on owning your own land starting out, especially, you know, renting. Those are the things that I think I'm going to be taking with me a lot more than I would have even ever thought of on my own.
That's great.
Yeah, pretty much start slow, scale up, and like you said really before, and honing in, you know, and building things incrementally, honing in on the thing that you like and the thing that you feel confident in doing, and just want to, you know, learn more and more and get better and more efficient.
That's great. That's great. So what would you say to anyone contemplating applying to be an intern here?
Work hard, you know. This job is so much fun, and you're never gonna feel more capable than you ever could before. And you know, for me, I'm coming from manual labor experience, and even still, I mean, the differences. Get ready for the marathon that is now going to be your life, of working constantly every day, you know, constantly improving the mental capacity that you have to, you know, just keep working on, learning everything every day while also being tired. And rest. Rest is really good for me personally.
There we go. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
It's a pleasure meeting you, hanging out with you.
Yeah, exactly. That was fun earlier.